We do have some requests to see how to set up the rubric and the grading.
Okay, all right. So I'll go back to Blackboard. The next thing I was going to walk you through is how to create a discussion board. Now that we've had a brief demo of what they look like, embedding video and an image and how to respond, now we're going to actually create one, okay? So you would first click on Create Forum, and it's pretty intuitive. You're going to name it. We're going to call this Week 3, How Do I Add a Rubric? Okay, so for the sake of this workshop, I'm going to pretend this is an actual question. Okay, and these are your general discussion settings. So by default, it is available. You want to select yes. If you are setting up your discussions for 4 weeks in advance, your common display restriction, date and time restrictions, you can display it after, let's say April 6th, and then it'll disappear. Let's just say April 12th. Okay. Even if you restrict the date to become available later, you have to select yes. Sometimes it's a common mistake to think, okay, I don't want it available now, so I'm going to select no, and then I'm going to check the box where it's become available after April 6th. Well, if you select no, after April 6th, it still won't be available. So you want to select yes, even if you enter a date and time restriction, okay? The other form settings, standard view is just, it's always open. The discussion board is open. The second option is participants must create a thread in order to view other threads in the forum. And I did create one. I'll show you after we create this what that looks like for students. But basically, when a student clicks on a discussion post, if you select this option, they're going to get a little notification that says, click here to create your own thread first, create your own post, and then we'll allow you to see what your other classmates have said. This is useful if you don't want, or you feel like your students may, borrow your other students' work. So that's totally up to you if you'd like to do that. If you allow grading in the discussion, you'll select the option to grade. You'll enter your points there. Okay, you do have the option to grade forums and grade discussions, as I mentioned. Forums is going to be the most practical for you. You can grade individual threads, but it can become quite the task to manage. So I don't necessarily recommend it unless you have a really, really good reason for wanting to grade the individual threads. Show participants in needs grading status after every one post. You can do it every 3 posts. And what this means, this little exclamation mark will appear under your needs grading or in your grade center for your students. It's an alert letting you know, hey, this student has finished this discussion board. If you only want to start grading after they have completed their 3 mandatory posts, then you can change that to 3. You can leave it at 1, and that'll just alert you that someone has posted at all. You can enter your due date here, pretty self-explanatory stuff, right? Now, this is the built-in rubric tool for Blackboard. You will see associated rubrics for assignments, for discussions. You'll probably see it for blogs. This is the built-in Blackboard rubric tool. We do have a completely separate workshop on rubrics, but I'm going to show you a sneak peek. The rubric that I was going to show you is a separate developed rubric. You can create a built-in rubric in Blackboard. You can adjust your headers to call this advanced if you'd like. I can't type. Okay. You can, and again, those were the default, and you could perfectly leave that, or intermediate, proficient, etc., or that was advanced. I did that in reverse. But yes, the point that I'm making is you can edit the columns, okay? You can add a column. So I just added a 4th column here. And here are your criteria, right? So the word of the hour was substance. You can change it, okay? You can also change the rubric type. I do not like percentages. They freak me out. Maybe it's because I'm just not good at math, but I personally do not like to use the weighted percentage for my discussions. I like a point range. That way, because it's never cut and dry. No student for advanced is ever going to get 5. So I may say, okay, for advanced, your points are 3 to 5 points, right? We're going to pretend that this is not there yet. We really wouldn't use that word or saying. Why is it cutting off? There we go. And you can go 0 to 1, and then you can go 2 to 3. You get the point. I know that's off. I added an extra column. But you can use a point range with your rubrics, or you can simply use points. And then, of course, the percentage and percentage ranges. And you can edit your criteria on the left and the levels of achievement across the right. And the good thing is, once you develop your rubric in one Blackboard course, it's attached to your user. So you can log into another. I'm going to cancel out of this because I'm not really going to do it. But let's say I created it in this course and now I'm logging into another course. I can select Add Rubric and select or create from existing. It's going to pull up any existing rubrics that I have already. And then you can access those rubrics if you just wanted to dive in and start building rubrics. It's found right here under your course tools, okay? I tend to stray if I dive off topic, so I apologize for not completely diving into that, but I am going to show you. So this rubric gives a general discussion, right? These are more of those guidelines, again, they're reiterated on the top of this document. And then this one is just excellent, good, adequate, fair, or poor. Pretty straightforward, but it highlights clearly in order to have an excellent post, you've either met or exceeded the expectations, you were highly engaged, quality of exploration, you showed understanding, blah, 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 and all posts made within the stated guidelines. Versus on the opposite end of the spectrum, your discussion questions were not on time and you did not address 2 or more of the following requirements. So there's many different ways to develop your rubrics, but if you have an existing rubric that is, say for example, in a Word file such as this one, you can go back into Blackboard and create multiple rubrics. Again, in your control panel on the rubrics, you can go in and build as many rubrics as you like. I do recommend that you still keep an external file with your rubrics, just so that you'll have them. Again, we just went through a server migration over the winter break, and we would hate for you to only rely on Blackboard to store your documents. So that's why I keep mine kind of externally, but you can also embed it into the course, and then that way you can grade against the rubric when you're in the course. So the other settings after rubrics are allow members to subscribe to each forum. That means if you allow subscriptions, whenever a student posts, if I have subscribed to a discussion board, students can get an email, they can subscribe to it. I'll get an email every time someone posts. If I am really engaged, that helps to remind students, hey, there's a whole discussion going on in this class. By subscribing, you get that notification. By default, these are the settings that are available. I always add the option to allow author to edit on published posts. That's because we're human. And this applies to you as the instructor as well. So if you don't check this option, you cannot edit your own posts. So if a student accidentally uploads the wrong post or attaches a file, there was one issue maybe a few years back, a student, they had to attach a Word document to their discussion. She accidentally uploaded her tax files or some document with her social security number to the discussion forum, and it was like on a Saturday, on a weekend, and she's emailing ITS and everyone else like, I need to get my information out of Blackboard. The instructor did not have this edit option enabled, so we had literally late at night on a Saturday go in and, for security reasons, remove this student's data. So it's always a good practice to allow students to edit. The other options are tagging. I don't really use those, but it works similar to like the social media. You can tag other students and things like that. If you do choose to use those options, let me know how it works for you. If you really find that students are using them. I have enabled them as a test just to see if my students will use them, and no one has really used them in the past. So once you have entered all of your required questions, name, content, any availability dates, you're choosing standard view, grading, rubrics, and the other settings, you're going to hit submit.